And when we study church history, we find the same cycle repeating itself in individual lives and in the lives of churches. This is the way God works. It's a cycle that comes back again and again and again. And do you know right now this morning, you are somewhere in that cycle. Do you know where? Right now, you are in one of those 5 places, one of those phases of God's spiritual development process. Do you know where? Because if you do, you can understand what's happening in your life. But if you don't, life is really confusing and perplexing, and you don't get God, and you wonder, why isn't my life working? When in reality, it may be working just fine. Do you know where you're at in that spiritual development cycle? See, God is always, first of all, working in order to birth something new in you. He might want to birth a new vision for your future. He might want to birth a new understanding of how your life or relationships are supposed to work. He might be birthing a new challenge for you to embrace. He might be birthing a new ministry that he wants you to throw yourself into. But God is always working to birth some new understanding, new vision, new challenge into our lives. And he does so that we might take our lives to a whole new and more powerful level. He's trying to birth something in you. And here's what is always true. When God is trying to birth a new vision, a new direction, a new challenge, a new understanding in your life, we always wrestle with saying yes. Just saying yes. I get it. I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to try to live it out. And one of the reasons we struggle with saying yes to what God is trying to birth in us is because we never feel ready, and it never comes at a convenient time. Mark it down. It's what I know about God. Whenever he's birthing something new in me, I never feel ready, and it's never a convenient moment. Most of us at this period of time are Gideon-like. There was a figure, historical figure, who lived like 1,500 or more years ago. His name was Gideon. He happened to live at a time where his people, the Hebrews, the Israelites, happened to be in captivity to a stronger nation, Midian. And the Midianites were oppressing the people. They abused them. They made them slaves. They took all their weaponry away. They subdued them. They treated them harshly. It was a horrible thing. And Gideon, at the time of the harvest, was trying to get enough grain together to go feed his extended family. And God showed up to Gideon and said, Gideon, great news. I am birthing something new in you. I'm going to change the direction of your life. I'm going to give you a new challenge and a new opportunity. You're going to be the leader that breaks off the oppression and leads this nation back to freedom. And Gideon said, awesome, I've been looking for a new challenge. No, he said, you got the wrong guy. You got the wrong guy, because the last thing I am is a mighty warrior. The last thing I am is a leader, because quite frankly, I'm a coward and I live my life in fear. It's literally what was going on in Gideon's life. And then he said, God, it's harvest time. My family needs food. How can I leave now to try to rally a bunch of troops together to throw off the oppression? Because I've got to feed my family. God, if I could just grow up a little bit more and overcome my fear. God, if I could just have a time where I don't have other important obligations, I could say yes to you. And sometimes we're kind of like Gideon. Because God's birthing a new understanding, a new challenge, a new vision. And it's like, oh yeah, but just not now. I'm not ready. It's not convenient. And that's why we struggle saying yes. But yes is the only right answer. Because yes leads to life. Once we say yes, God will then lead us to this next phase of the cycle, which is growing. Because once we say yes and we begin living out. It might be haltingly, it might be awkwardly, but we begin living out that thing that God has birthed in. Wonderful and powerful things begin to happen. We begin to experience God and experience life on a whole new level that makes us go, I am so glad I did not use my own inadequacies or my own inconvenience as an excuse, because living life this way is awesome. Two things inevitably happen. Number one, our impact on people ratchets up. And we find ourselves leaving more profound spiritual ripples in our relational wake. We impact people in a greater way for good, for righteousness. The second thing that happens is we begin to be transformed. We begin to grow. We start changing inside in ways that are for real. Becoming more and more to the people that we always wanted to be, that we knew we were called to be, but in the past we'd always struggled in becoming. It is inevitable when we say yes to what God is birthing in us, and we begin to live it out, no matter how haltingly or awkward it may feel, we begin to see that we have a more righteous impact on others, and we begin changing in ways that are so satisfying and profound. These things only happen after we've said yes and after we've begun to embrace what God is birthing in. Never before. Never before. I remember during the 27 weeks in between the NFC and AFC championship games and the Super Bowl. Aren't there like 27 weeks in there? It goes forever. It's really 2. But you know, they're interviewing everybody and they're trying to come up with all these stories. And I remember watching an interview with Mike Tomlin, the second-year head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And as they were interviewing them, one of the sports anchors asked an interesting question. And the question was, you know what, you're like the youngest head coach in the NFL. You're taking over a storied franchise that had just won the Super Bowl the year before he took over as head coach. You'd never been a head coach before, and yet here you are playing for the Super Bowl in only your second year. Did you believe you could do this, or did you ever doubt yourself? You know what his answer was? His answer went like this. He said, well, you know what? What I really believed was I believed in the Rooneys. The Rooneys are the owners of the Pittsburgh Steelers who are in charge of hiring the head coach. Mike Tomlin went on to say, the Rooneys have such a track record of hiring the right guy. And if you look back, you see the Steelers have very few coaches. They stay there for a very long time, and they're all very, very successful. And Tomlin said, what really happened is when they interviewed me and they said they wanted to hire me, I had faith that they knew what they were doing. And if they saw this in me, I must be up to the challenge because their track record is so good. So it was my faith in them that got me to get this job. And now, in 2 years, we've won the AFC, and now we're playing for the Super Bowl. And they ended up winning the Super Bowl. Granted, the Cardinals should have won. But the Steelers ended up winning the Super Bowl, and now he is reveling in the fact that he is a world champion. His faith in the faith of someone else believing in him got him to say yes so that he could experience his potential, and that led to incredible accomplishment and deep and profound satisfaction. Same way in the Spirit, in the world of the Spirit. God believes in us enough to birth a new vision, a new challenge, a new opportunity, a new understanding. When we embrace it and say yes because God believes in us and we begin to live it out, that's when we become people of impact. That's when we become people of profound and deep character. The growing phase. And mark it down, sometime in the growing phase, it is inevitable we will encounter opposition. And we'll have to learn how to persevere. It's inevitable. It's inescapable.